Girl, I've been in that master suite since Thursday. Marcus said his mama won't be back till Sunday. So I went ahead and moved my whole wardrobe into the left side of the closet. And honestly, the lighting in that bathroom alone is worth it. That voice is not directed at me. It is coming through the cracked bedroom window, the one I leave open 6 inches for Deacon, my cat, who sits on the porch every evening at 6:15, waiting for my car to turn onto Delwood Circle. Deacon is not on the porch tonight. The window is open, and someone inside my master bedroom is talking to someone on the phone about how much she appreciates the lighting in my bathroom. And I am standing in the driveway of 114 Delwood Circle at 7:12 on a Sunday evening in early May. Still wearing the black wrap dress I wore to bury my mother on Saturday. The hem falling just past my knee. The fabric exactly right for standing and receiving for 4 days without movement or complaint. My low heels are worn soft at the toe from walking between the casket and the first pew. The sanctuary and the parking lot, the church doors and the grave that opened up in Willis County under a sky that would not change its mind about being grey. My mother's Bible is in my left hand, the cover supple from decades of Sunday services. The pages marked with verses she wanted spoken at her own funeral, which were spoken on Saturday at 11 in the morning in the presence of 348 people who had known her name for more than 50 years. In my right hand is a foil-covered sweet potato pound cake pressed into my hands by Sister Betty at the repast. A cake made with the good yams from the farmer's market, not the regular ones, with the real vanilla extract, not that imitation mess that people try to pass off as the real thing. I am 54 years old. I am a hospital billing coordinator at Mercy General Health System. Office on the 3rd floor, senior staff, 17 years with the same employer. And I know things about numbers that would make an accountant weep. I know the actual cost of an MRI to the nearest dollar. I know when a hospital bill is inflated and when it is fraudulent down to the single digit. I know how to read a ledger line by line and understand what a number is trying to hide, because hiding is what numbers do when they are attached to something somebody does not want you to know, when they are protecting something, when they are preparing a lie for the future. And right now, I am looking at the white Kia Soul parked in my designated spot. The spot marked with the brass numerals 114. The numerals that my mother and I screwed into the curb post together on a Saturday afternoon in May of 2007, standing on a step stool while she steadied the post, and I drove each screw in with the cordless drill we rented from Home Depot. And the Kia Soul has a cracked rear bumper and a pink rear-view mirror charm, shaped like a seashell, that I have never seen before in my life. And I am understanding something about the 4 days I just spent in Macon that I did not understand until this very moment. I do not move the car. I do not touch the Kia Soul. I do not leave a note under the wiper blade, or call Marcus, or knock on the door. I simply pull my car parallel in front of my neighbour's property, the same place I parked during the ice storm in 2019, and I pull my mother's Bible a little closer to my body. This is the first move, and what makes it a move is that I do not react out loud. No scream, no phone call, no knock, just observation, just the small act of parking on the street in front of my own house. In the dark, in the clothes I wore to my mother's funeral, carrying the weight of everything that weight means. The kind of move a woman makes when she is filing information away, like she is building a case. Because she understands already that she might need one. The voice through the window keeps talking. She is speaking to whoever is on the other end of the phone call, and she is describing my master bedroom the way a real estate agent would describe a property showing for someone else's client. Not, I think the lighting is nice. Not, I like your bathroom. But the lighting in that bathroom alone is worth it. Like the bathroom is a feature she is evaluating for permanent acquisition. Like she is already calculating what it would cost to replicate this particular arrangement of natural light and fixtures and hardware in another context. Another house. Another life? I have never heard this voice in my house before. I do not know who lives in my master bedroom tonight. Because nobody asked my permission, and nobody told me the answer when I made my son a specific offer 14 months ago. My son Marcus is 23 years old and has been living in this house for those 14 months. Since the apartment lease he signed fell through, and he came to me saying he needed somewhere to land while he got back on his feet. I said yes. I said he could stay in the second bedroom. And I set 3 conditions verbally, face to face, because I trusted him to remember the conversation the way I did. The conditions were, you contribute to utilities, you keep your space clean, and you do not turn my house into a situation. Situation was the word I used. And Marcus nodded, like he understood what I meant. And I believed him. Now there is a woman laughing in the second bedroom. And there is another woman living in my master bedroom and filling my closet with her clothes. And Odessa Holloway, my mother, has been in the ground for less than 48 hours. Odessa lived to 79. She was a school teacher for 42 years, which is a long time to teach other people's children. To be patient with their confusion and their cruelty and their slowness. To show up every single morning ready to invest in lives that would go out into the world and forget her names. She was a deacon's wife. But she was the woman who told me at 16 that being underestimated is a superpower if you are paying attention. And I have been paying attention to every single thing my entire life. But I have also been tired. Tired people rationalize. Tired people tell themselves that their son is old enough to make his own decisions. Old enough to have a girlfriend. Old enough to not need his mother's approval anymore. And those things are true. But the follow-up question is the one that matters. At whose expense? I let myself into the house through the side entrance, the key sliding into the lock the way it has for 18 years, and I do not call out. The house smells different. Underneath the smell of my kitchen and my living room, and the smell of 18 years of my own life lived in this space, there is something else. Something floral. Something that is not me. I set the Bible on the kitchen table. I set the pound cake next to it. I stand in the kitchen for a moment and I look around at my own furniture, my own kitchen, my own refrigerator with the groceries I bought on Thursday morning before I locked the door and pointed myself toward Macon. I do not go upstairs immediately. I do not run to the master bedroom like I am afraid of what I will find. Instead, I stand still. I listen. I let my eyes track through the living room, my furniture, my television, my mother's cross on the mantelpiece from Mount Calvary Baptist, the cross that has been hanging in the same place since 1998. Everything here, everything where I left it on Thursday morning. and I let that floral smell settle into my understanding of what has happened while I was gone. Marcus called me on Wednesday morning. He was at the Amazon Fulfillment Center on Route 9 on his break, and he did not have very much time to talk. He said that he had picked up an extra shift, an overtime shift, Friday through Monday, and the money was too good to pass up. He said he was sorry he could not come to the funeral. He said he knew his grandmother would understand. He said that when I got back to the house on Sunday, his girlfriend, Destiny, was going to be staying a few days while she figured out her next move. She's between situations, he said. Those were his exact words. Her lease ended, and she's just trying to get her feet under her. She's a good girl. Mama, you'll like her. I asked, when will she be gone? He said, maybe a couple weeks. I don't know yet. I did not say what I was thinking. I did not say that between situations is what people say when someone has made a deliberate choice and is trying to make it sound accidental and temporary and like nobody's fault. I did not say that I know my son, and I know that he does not make decisions this sloppy without a reason, without a plan, underneath the plan. I did not say that his girlfriend's lease ending is not an emergency that justifies turning my home into a short-term solution for a stranger. I said, we'll talk about it when I get back. And I hung up the phone, and I drove to Macon with my mother's funeral program on the passenger seat next to a thermos of coffee with chicory, the kind I grew up drinking in Louisiana before I moved to Atlanta. Before I bought this house, before I built the life that was supposed to be my own. Now I go upstairs. The hallway light is on. The second bedroom door is closed, and I can hear the television inside, can hear two voices talking underneath the sound of something that sounds like a movie. The master bedroom door is open. I step inside, and I see it immediately. The photograph. It is the photograph of my mother. She is wearing an Easter dress, the color of fresh butter, standing on the white steps of Mount Calvary Baptist on a Sunday morning in April 2019, her hand resting on the white pillar at the top of the steps. Her smile exactly like the smile she gave me the day we sat in the bank in 2007 and I signed the papers that put my name on the deed to this house. She signed as a witness. She co-signed the down payment note, $148,000. The bank manager said, "We are glad to have you in the neighborhood, Miss Holloway." And my mother smiled like she was the one buying the house, not just helping her daughter keep her peace intact. The photograph has lived on the dresser for 6 years. It is faced outward toward the room so that Odessa Holloway is looking at the world, looking at me when I wake up, looking at whoever walks into my bedroom. Tonight, the photograph has been turned around. The glass is not broken. The frame is not damaged. Someone has taken it between both hands and turned it so my mother is facing the wall instead of facing outward. I stand in the doorway. I do not move toward the photograph yet. First, I see everything else, because everything else is the detail that is going to matter when I need it to matter. The left side of the closet is full, not partially full, full. There are clothes on hangers, a leather jacket that must have cost money, a collection of dresses in deep jewel tones that look like someone who watches YouTube and knows what colors make a difference, a row of what looks like work uniforms from somewhere that requires a specific color palette. Maybe healthcare like me, maybe hospitality, maybe retail. Below the hanging items are 3 plastic storage containers. Oh, the transparent kind, pushed underneath the shelf where I used to store my winter clothes before I needed to make room. I can see the contents from the doorway without moving closer. Folded sweaters, rolled scarves, the organized inventory of a person who is not visiting. She is settling in. She is building an installation. On the vanity. The Victoria's Secret bag is open. It contains an oral care kit from Target with the rose gold handle. A Drybar volumizer spray in the navy bottle, or Fenty skincare in the rose gold packaging that catches light and throws it back. There is a makeup bag unzipped next to the skincare. And I can see Urban Decay palettes and MAC lipsticks, and the kind of product collection that takes time to assemble. Behind the bathroom door, I see house slippers. They are grey Carhartt, the men's style, but worn down soft at the heel from someone shuffling in them every day. Marcus does not own grey Carhartt slippers, and these are not his size. These slippers have been sitting on that bathroom floor long enough that the pile of the bath mat has formed an imprint underneath them, which means they have been here since at least Thursday morning, which means Destiny Pruitt did not arrive on Friday night for a casual weekend visit, which means she did not pack her bags yesterday and move into my house on a whim, which means she knew on April 28th, when her lease ended, exactly where she was going to land. I do not touch anything. I walk through the room like I am walking through an archaeology site, like I am a detective, and my own bedroom is a crime scene that I need to understand. I catalogue everything I see. I catalogue what it tells me. The bed is made. It is made with my sheets, my duvet, the quilt my mother gave me as a wedding gift in 1995. A wedding that did not last. But the quilt lasted. And I brought it back from Macon in my car trunk because I did not want to leave it behind at my mother's house. Did not want to leave anything behind that mattered. The pillows are fluffed. The room is cleaner than it was when I left it on Thursday. There is no dust on the dresser. Destiny has apparently not just moved in. She has cleaned. She has made herself at home in a way that suggests she was planning to stay. I go to the dresser and I pick up the photograph. I am holding my mother's face in my hands, still turned toward the wall, still not looking at me. I turn it around so it is upright again. I look at Odessa Holloway's face. The butter yellow dress. The white pillar. The hand resting calm. The smile that was mine before it was hers. I set the photograph back in its exact place on the dresser. The same 3-inch distance from the edge that I have maintained for 6 years. The same angle, the same positioning. The room is quiet. I am the only one in it. I can hear the television in the second bedroom still playing. I can hear Marcus's voice, and another voice underneath it that must be Destiny, laughing at something I cannot hear, something I do not need to hear, because I understand now what I need to understand. They do not know yet that I am home. They do not know yet that I am standing in the master bedroom doing an inventory, that I am noting the brand names on the bottles, that I am understanding the implications of the Carhartt slippers, that I am registering the fact that my son did not go to his grandmother's funeral because he had to work a shift, and his girlfriend's lease ended on April 28th, And he had 4 perfect days to settle her into my home while I was in Macon watching Odessa Holloway go into the ground. I leave the bedroom. I close the door behind me without making a sound. I go downstairs and I sit at my kitchen table with my mother's Bible and the sweet potato pound cake. And I do not call Marcus. I do not go into the second bedroom and demand an explanation. I do not cry. I do not raise my voice. I simply sit in the kitchen light, in my black funeral dress, in shoes worn soft at the toe from standing and receiving, and I let the air move around me, and I let time do what time is going to do, because I'm a woman who knows what it means to wait, and I'm a woman who knows what it means to act. And right now, on the first evening of the rest of this story, I am deciding which one I have become. The television in the second bedroom keeps playing. Marcus keeps laughing. In my master bedroom, the photograph of my mother is upright again, facing outward, facing the room where a stranger has slept in my bed, and hung her leather jacket in my closet, and left her Carhartt slippers to settle into the carpet like roots. Like she is planning to stay for longer than anyone promised. I drink a glass of water. I do not eat the pound cake. I do not open the Bible. I simply sit and I listen. And I think about what my mother told me on a Saturday afternoon in May of 2007 when she held the post steady while I screwed the brass numerals 114 into the curb. She said, "Put your name on it, and only your name. Your piece is not a joint venture." The tone of her voice told me she was not just talking about a house deed. She was talking about everything. She was talking about the rest of my life. She was talking about what I would owe myself and what I would never owe anyone else. I put my name on the deed. Only my name. And for 18 years, I have understood what that meant. But tonight, standing in my kitchen, looking at a stranger's pound cake on my table, looking at a stranger's car in my spot, I am going to understand it in a completely different way. My mother understood something about property that most people never learn. Odessa Holloway was a school teacher for 42 years. She worked in public schools where the wages climbed slow and the paycheck was never the reason you stayed. You stayed because somebody had to show up and see the children. And she was the kind of woman who showed up. She was a deacon's wife in a church that required her to be present for other people's emergencies long before she ever had the luxury of sitting with her own grief. She had raised 3 children, put them through school, seen them into their own lives. And she had done it all on a salary that never quite added up to enough. Because that was the deal she had made with herself a long time ago. But Odessa Holloway was not a woman who accumulated things. She was a woman who understood the difference between owning something and letting something own you. And when I was 16 years old, still living in her house in Macon, still believing that the future was something that would happen to me instead of something I would have to build, she told me something I did not understand until much later. We were sitting in her kitchen. The kitchen window was open, and there was the sound of neighborhood traffic and someone's lawnmower 2 houses over. She was making sweetened tea, the way she always did, with enough sugar and enough time for the ice to start melting while the liquid was still hot. She poured 2 glasses, and she handed me one, and she sat down across from me at the table. And she said, "Baby, being underestimated is a superpower if you are paying attention. I do not remember what I was worried about that day. Probably a boy, probably a grade at school, probably something that felt enormous at 16 and looks small now. But I remember the way she looked at me when she said it. And I remember the way she let that sentence sit between us without explaining it, without softening it with a smile. She just let it be true and waited for me to grow into understanding what she already knew. When I was 23 years old, I married a man named Derek Holloway. He was charming, and he was wrong for me. But I did not know that yet, and neither did anyone else. We had met at the hospital where I worked. He worked in administration, and he had the kind of confidence that people who have never been tested very hard sometimes have. He talked about leaving Atlanta. He talked about starting over. Or he talked about the future like it was something that belonged to him and everyone else was lucky to be invited along. I said yes to all of it because I was young and yes felt like love. We lived in a small apartment in Atlanta and I worked as a billing coordinator at Mercy General Health System. That job became my whole life much faster than I expected. The hospital had a way of pulling you deeper with every year you stayed. The work was not glamorous. We were billing people for their emergency room visits, their surgeries, their days in intensive care when their bodies failed them. We were the machinery that turned their suffering into numbers. And I hated it, and I was very good at it. I knew how to read a ledger so carefully that the truth came up from under the numbers, like a voice that has been waiting to be heard. I learned which codes meant which procedures, which insurance companies would fight which claims, which patients would get a bill they could not afford, and which ones had already paid enough just by showing up to the hospital in the first place. Nobody ever told me no. And slowly, I became the person everybody came to when something needed figuring out. I was the person who solved the problem. I was the person who knew. And somewhere in the middle of those early years, while Derek was deciding that Atlanta was too much and too little of what he wanted, I was building something that he could not take apart. I was building a reputation at the hospital that mattered. I was building savings accounts. I was building a version of myself that did not need him. The problem was, I did not know I was building it yet. Derek left when Marcus was 9 years old. That is the number that matters. More than the reason, more than the explanation, more than any of the story Derek told himself about why he needed to go. Just 9. My son was 9 years old when his father decided that being present was less important than being somewhere else. Marcus asked me, "When is Dad coming home?" And I had to find a way to answer. That did not make it my fault that Derek had chosen to leave. And I did not always find the right words. I did my best. I worked. I came home. I made dinner. I helped with homework. I tried to be both things, and the truth is, you cannot be both things. You can only be two people doing one person's job, and you can only do that for so long before it starts to break you. 18 years ago, I walked into an empty house at 114 Delwood Circle with my mother. It was a Saturday morning in May 2007. The house was built in 1982, and the people who had lived there before us had left it the way people leave things when they are moving towards something they think is better. The paint was dated. The light switches had that yellow film that comes from smoking or cooking for 30 years. The kitchen had the feeling of a space that nobody had loved in a very long time. The countertops were laminate, faded to the color of old water. But there were hardwood floors underneath the carpet, and I could see where they had been worn smooth and golden in the places where footsteps had crossed 1,000 times. The wear pattern told a story of a life that had been lived in this house. And maybe that was what I was looking for. Not a perfect house. A house with proof that living had happened here. The kitchen window had a sill wide enough to rest your coffee mug on. And my mother walked through the empty kitchen. And she ran her hand along that sill the way you touch something you are asking for mercy. Her hand was warm. She had always run warm, had always been the kind of person whose body held heat and gave it out freely. "This is the one," she said. She did not ask me if I liked it. She did not say it was a good investment, or that the price was right, or that I could afford it. She just ran her hand along the sill and said, "This is the one. And when you sign the papers, you listen to me. You put your name on it and only your name. Not his name, not both names. Your name. Your piece is not a joint venture." I knew who she meant. I knew she meant Derek. And I also knew that Derek had already told me he was not sure about Atlanta, that he was not sure about anything, that he was tired of this already, and we had only been here 2 years. I knew she meant that if I was going to build something, it was going to be for me, and it was going to belong to me, and nobody else's indecision could touch it. I did not argue with her, because even then I understood that Odessa Holloway had learned something that most people never learned. And she was handing it to me the way you hand something valuable to someone you love. Carefully, with the weight of everything you knew baked in. The purchase price was $148,000. My mother co-signed the down payment note. The bank manager was a man named Robert Chen, and he looked at the two of us across his desk, at my mother in her church dress, and me in the black blazer I had bought specifically for this appointment, because I needed to look like a person who could be trusted with this kind of money. He said, "We're glad to have you in the neighborhood, Miss Holloway." And my mother smiled like she was the one buying the house, not just helping her daughter keep her peace intact. The papers took an hour to sign. I read every word. I checked the line where my name appeared. I made sure there was nothing after it. One name. That was all. It took me 18 years to pay off that mortgage. I did that on purpose. I took jobs with double billing cycles. I worked the kind of overtime that means you see your son at breakfast, and you see him again when he is already asleep in bed, and you tell yourself it is temporary. It is for the house, it is for the future, and you believe it because the alternative is understanding that you are sacrificing his childhood for the idea of security. One year, I worked so many hours that the bank sent me a letter asking if I was all right. If something had happened, because the deposit pattern looked like crisis. Nothing had happened except choice. I had decided that I wanted to own something completely, without condition, without negotiation, without anyone's name on it but my own, and I knew what the price of that was. Marcus learned to do his homework at the kitchen table while I was on the phone with insurance companies. While I was reading through medical records trying to figure out what code covered what service, he learned that his mother was a woman who worked. He learned that wanting something and being willing to work for it were not the same thing. He did not learn that lesson from my words. He learned it from watching me. 18 years of watching me put money into a house and time into a house and attention into a house because it was going to be mine. when Marcus was in high school. I planted a garden in the back of the property. The house had a lot, almost a third of an acre, and most of it was overgrown and tangled with whatever had been growing there for the 25 years before I bought it. I cleared a section that was maybe 20 feet by 15 feet, and I worked the soil, and I added compost that I bought from a nursery in Marietta, and I planted eggplant and collard greens and tomatoes that would not grow in the shade, but I planted them anyway, because I needed something to tend that was not complicated. I did this the year that Derek tried to come back into Marcus's life. He had been gone for 9 years. 9 years. And then one day, he called the house and he asked to speak to his son. And Marcus did not know how to want him and did not know how to refuse him. I did not know how to tell my son that loving someone and protecting yourself from them was sometimes the same choice. That sometimes the most loving thing you could do was keep your distance. That sometimes the people who give you life also take something from you, and you cannot have both. The garden was how I answered the question without words. You give it water and sun and the right soil, and it either grows or it does not. There are no mixed signals. There is no question of how much it loves you back. The tomatoes do not call you after 9 years and act like nothing happened. Marcus helped me plant that garden. We did not talk about his father. We worked the soil and we put seeds in the ground and we waited for growth. And that was what we needed to do. The garden fed us for 6 summers. I made salads and I made preserves and I made a sauce with the tomatoes that people asked me to bring to church potlucks. And they always came back empty because that sauce was the good sauce, the one that tasted like attention. Every summer when I walked through the back garden, I thought about the year Derek tried to come back and the year I decided to plant something instead of fight about it. Marcus grew up. He finished high school. He went to community college for a year. And then he dropped out. And then he worked different jobs, warehouse work and retail, and the kind of work that people take when they are just trying to make money. And they do not know yet that they are building a life with every job they take or refuse. He was 23 years old, and he still believed that making mistakes and moving on was the same as growing. And he was still the kind of person who could show up at his mother's house and expect a solution instead of a boundary. The mortgage is paid off now. It has been paid off for 4 years. I wrote the final check in 2021 and I called the bank and I asked them to send me the deed. And when it arrived in the mail, I held it in my hands and I read my name on it. Just my name. 1 line. No amendment, no asterisk. Renata Holloway, not Renata and Derek. Not Renata and Marcus. Not Renata and anyone else. Just me. That name on that document meant that the house was mine in a way that nothing else in my life had ever been mine. It meant that I could not be taken from. It meant that nobody could negotiate with me about this space. It meant that I had built something that was permanent. The value of the house went up while I was building it. When I bought it for $148,000, it was worth maybe $160,000, and the difference was just the luck of Atlanta's real estate market, the way cities grow and property follows. People sell their houses and move somewhere cheaper, and their houses become valuable, and they do not get to see it happen. Now, 114 Delwood Circle is worth $312,000. I do not think about that number very often. But it sits underneath everything. It is the distance between a woman who has something and a woman who has nothing. It is the difference between being able to say no and having to say yes. It is the difference between being vulnerable and being able to protect yourself. My salary at Mercy General is $67,200 a year. That is what the hospital is paying me for my competence, my precision, my ability to read a document so carefully that I can see where the lie is hiding. That salary has never been enough to cover what I have built, but it has been enough to build with. And there is a difference. It means I never had to beg. It means I never had to ask Derek for money for the mortgage after he left. It means I never had to explain myself to anyone because I was writing the checks myself. Marcus came back to the house 14 months ago. He had lost his apartment lease. That was the explanation. And he needed somewhere to land while he figured out his next move. He was 23 years old. He was old enough to have made the decisions that cost him the apartment. And he was young enough that he still believed his mother was a solution to a problem instead of a temporary shelter, while he'd learned how to become a man. I said yes. I said he could stay in the second bedroom. I set 3 conditions. Contribute to the utilities. Keep your space clean. Do not turn my house into a situation. I told him these things face to face. I did not write them down because I was still trusting him, still believing that being his mother meant he would listen to me without documentation. That was the mistake. Not saying yes, not letting him stay, just the part where I did not make him sign his name to the 3 conditions. 4 days before the funeral, Marcus called me and said he had to work. He had picked up an extra shift at the Amazon Fulfillment Center on Route 9. The warehouse associate job was not the kind of work that filled your life with meaning, but it filled it with money. And Marcus was at the age where money looked like freedom. He said he could not afford to miss the shift. He said his grandmother would understand. He said he would see me when I got back. What he did not say was that he had a plan. What he did not say was that his girlfriend's lease was ending on April 28th, and he had counted on my mother's funeral falling on Saturday. And he had calculated that he could get me out of the house for 4 days. And in those 4 days, he could move Destiny Pruitt into my master bedroom, like that was his choice to make, like that was his room to give away. I drove to Macon alone. I left at 6 a.m. on Thursday, and I drove 4 hours with my mother's favorite dress, hanging in the back seat, and her funeral program sitting on the passenger seat. My mother had picked her Bible verses years ago. She had written down the people she wanted to sing. She had prepared for her own death the way she prepared for everything. Methodically, with attention to detail, with the knowledge that other people would be depending on her clarity. She was 79 years old, and she had been ready for 2 years. The heart attack just confirmed what she already knew. The funeral was on Saturday. 348 people came. I know the number because I stood at the back of the church, and I counted them while I was standing there, while I was doing the work that grieving daughters do, which is be present and be strong and be the one who can answer questions when other people are too devastated. I was the one who brought flowers. I was the one who placed them on the casket. I was the one who made sure the repast was organized. I was the one who received. I was the one who stood. I was not the one who was working a warehouse shift on Friday and planning to move a stranger into my house. That was Marcus. That was what my son was doing while I was burying his grandmother. The drive back was long. I left Macon on Sunday at 2 p.m. I had my mother's Bible in one hand and a sweet potato pound cake that Sister Betty had pressed into my hands at the repast. Made with the good yams from the farmer's market, not the regular ones. Real vanilla extract, not that imitation mess. I had the knowledge that my mother was in the ground, that the earth was already settling on top of her, that the grass would grow over her grave next spring, and she would not be there to see it. I had 4 hours to drive, and nothing but my own mind for company. I had the understanding that I had done something right, had built something solid, had made a life that was my own, and I was driving back to that life. I was driving back to a life where a stranger was sleeping in my bed. I did not know that yet. But my mother knew. My mother had always known that peace was not something you could count on other people to give you, and that building something of your own meant you had to understand what you were protecting it from. She had told me that when I was 16 years old, and I had remembered it when I was 23, and I signed my name on a deed, and only my name. I had held onto it for 18 years, through double billing cycles and a garden and a son who was learning what it meant to be a man and learning it badly. I had understood it in my body and in my choices every single day. But standing in my kitchen 4 days after I buried her, with a stranger's perfume on my pillow upstairs and a white Kia Soul sitting in my parking spot, I understood that knowing something and living it are not the same thing. You can know that being underestimated is a power. You can know that your peace is not a joint venture. You can know all of it and still let someone move into your master bedroom because you are too tired to enforce the boundary, because you are grieving, because it is easier to say nothing than it is to say no. You can know all of it and still make that mistake. But you cannot know it and stay silent once you understand what the silence has cost you. 18 years I had built this. 18 years of my life, working double cycles, planting a garden, refusing to put Derek's name on the deed. 18 years of choosing myself every time I had a choice. And now, my mother was 4 days in the ground. And I was standing in a house that belonged to me. And I was understanding that the house was not going to protect itself. The peace was not going to protect itself. The boundary was not going to matter unless I was the one who stood there and enforced it. That was when I made the decision about who I was going to be for the next 30 days. It was not a decision about anger. It was not a decision about justice. It was a decision about peace. It was Odessa Holloway's decision, delivered through my own hands, in my own time, in my own house. I sit at the kitchen table with my mother's Bible in front of me and wait. The pound cake is still on the table, still foil wrapped, still untouched. The kitchen light is warm. Thursday seems like a year ago. I do not turn on the television. I do not call anyone. I do not go back upstairs. I do not panic or make phone calls or do anything that would indicate to the people in the second bedroom that I have arrived home with a plan already forming. I simply sit in the kitchen light with my hands flat on the table and wait for Marcus to realize that his mother has come home. It takes him 17 minutes. I know because I am watching the clock on the microwave, and I am doing the work that waiting requires, which is staying still enough that your stillness becomes a fact in the room. It is a skill that most people never develop. Most people cannot sit with silence. They fill it. They talk. They reach for their phones. They make noise to feel like they are still in control. But I learned a long time ago that silence can be a tool if you know how to use it. Silence makes other people uncomfortable. Silence makes them rush. Silence makes them talk when they should stay quiet. And then you know what they would have hidden. Marcus comes out of the second bedroom, and Destiny is right behind him. She is still wearing the crown nail and spa polo shirt, which means she came straight from work, or is about to go to work. Or maybe she was supposed to go and did not, and nobody from the salon cared enough to ask. The shirt is the shade of mauve that looks professional on someone else and looks like compromise on her. Her hair is in a style that took time. Box braids pulled back into a crown of twists. The kind of styling that says, I am not someone who wakes up and leaves the house without intention. She is pretty in a way that does not require her to be smart. And I am going to watch her find out that pretty and smart might be two separate things. I can see the moment she registers that I am home. Her body changes. Her face changes. Her eyes go to me first, then to the kitchen table, then to the Bible sitting on it, then back to me. And I can see her understanding in that sequence that something has changed about the story she has been telling herself for the last 5 days. Ms. Holloway, she says. She is trying to smile, but the smile is coming from the top half of her face only. Her mouth is moving, but her eyes are not participating. Marcus said you wouldn't be back until tomorrow. I do not respond. I do not confirm or deny. I simply look at her, and I let her understand that she is standing in my kitchen, and I am the person who owns the kitchen, and she is going to have to live with that fact. This is the moment where I begin to understand Destiny Pruitt. This is the moment where I see her clearly. Not as a cartoon villain, but as a young woman who has never been told that other people's exhaustion is not a resource. She has never been told that someone's grief is not an opportunity. She has never been told that access is not the same as belonging. Heidi steps forward. Mama, I can explain. I am sure you can. I say, my voice is not angry. That is the thing that stops him. If I were angry, he would know what to do with that. He would defend. He would argue. He would match my heat with his own. But my voice is flat. My voice is the voice of a woman who has already decided something and is now just watching the other people catch up to that decision. My voice is the voice of someone who stopped being reactive 4 days ago. When she was standing at a grave in Macon and watched her mother go into the ground while her son worked a shift. Destiny moves toward the kitchen counter, toward the kettle that I filled with water on Thursday morning before I locked the door and pointed myself toward Willis County. The kettle is still there. I did not wash it. I did not touch it. It is exactly where I left it 4 days ago. Destiny reaches for the cabinet where I keep the mugs. The cabinet whose location she has documented with her hands. And she pulls out 2 of them. Not the everyday mugs, the nice ones, the ones that were wedding gifts that I never use. She sets them on the counter like this is her kitchen, like this is our kitchen. I can make tea, she says. She is trying to fix this the way you fix things when you are young, and you believe that hospitality can undo decisions that are already made. She believes that If she can just make me a cup of tea in my own kitchen. If she can just perform the role of a person who belongs here, then maybe I will forget that she does not. I have some loose leaf in my car. It's really good. It's from that tea place downtown. I watch her. I watch her hand on my kettle. I watch her reach toward the cabinet again, toward the sugar bowl that my mother gave me for Christmas in 1998, a bowl that is now going to be a detail I will remember for the rest of my life. I watch her move through my space like she owns it. I watch her make choices about my things. And I understand something about Destiny Pruitt in that moment that is going to matter more than anything else I will discover about her. She is not cruel. She is not evil. She is not a person who set out to hurt anyone or steal anything or violate a space. She is just someone who has never been told that other people's things are not resources for her to use. She is someone who believes that love confers access. And if Marcus loves her, then his key is her key. And his house is her house by extension. And his mother's house is a place she can occupy because that is what family does. That is what people do when they love each other. They share. They do not patrol the boundaries between mine and yours. She believes this with the kind of certainty that only comes from never having been contradicted by consequences. The problem is that she is not family. The problem is that she let her lease expire on April 28th because she had a plan. And the plan was to land in my house on the back of my son's key and my grief. The plan was going to work for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month if nobody noticed how completely she had settled in. Maybe the plan was to get her name on the lease eventually, to become a legal tenant, to make her occupation so permanent that removing her would require paperwork and lawyers. Maybe the plan was just to not think about the end at all. Marcus is watching me. I can see him trying to figure out what I am, now that I am home and in front of him, and not theoretical anymore. I can see him trying to match this version of me. Silent, still watching, to the version he has been living with for 14 months. The version who said yes to him staying. The version who set conditions verbally because she trusted him. The version who trusted her own son enough to not make him sign his name to the things she asked of him. Destiny, I say. I say her name like it is a question. You let your lease expire on April 28th. She stops. The kettle is in her hand. The water inside it is still cold. I did, she says. She is not going to lie. I can see that. She is not someone who has practiced lying enough to be good at it. Marcus said it would be fine. He said his mum wouldn't care. And what have you told people? I ask. I am still not angry. I am the opposite of angry. I am the calm of someone who has already decided and is now just documenting the lies. I am the calm of a woman who is about to ask questions that will change what is possible for this young woman. What have you told people about where you live now? She looks at Marcus as there is a moment where she is trying to understand whether he told me something, whether she should lie or tell the truth. But I already know what she has done. I know because people like Destiny do not disappear into someone's spare room quietly. People like Destiny broadcast their location. They take pictures. They tag the address. They tell people they have landed somewhere good. They make it real by telling someone it was real. I didn't tell anyone anything, she says. But she is lying, and I can see it. She told people. She posted something on Instagram. She said something in a text message to a friend. She made this real by making it public. She said something like, finally landed a place, or our place with a photo of my kitchen, or maybe the back garden, or maybe just the bathroom with the good lighting that she talked about on the phone. She broadcast her occupation of my space the way young people broadcast everything. Thoughtlessly, immediately. But it is going to be a problem. I am going to make it a problem. Go upstairs, I say. My voice is steady. Pack whatever you brought into my bedroom. Every single thing. The shampoo, the makeup, the slipper, the storage containers. All of it. I want it out of my house in the next 15 minutes. And then you are going to leave. You are going to get in your car, and you are going to drive away from this address. And you are not going to come back here without being invited. She looks at Marcus. She is hoping he will argue. She is hoping that love is strong enough to overcome property rights, that access confers permanence. She is hoping that Marcus will choose her. But Marcus is looking at me, and he is trying to understand something about his mother that he did not understand before, that love and boundaries are not the same thing. Now, I say, destiny moves. She sets down the kettle and the mugs, and she walks past me and up the stairs, and Marcus follows her. I sit at the kitchen table and I listen to them moving through my bedroom. I listen to them opening drawers and closing them. I listen to the sound of plastic storage containers being dragged across hardwood. I listen to the understanding arriving, maybe for the first time, that things cannot just continue as planned. That a mother coming home is not a footnote in a timeline. That there is a woman downstairs in her own kitchen, waiting, and she is not going to pretend this did not happen. Destiny comes back down carrying 3 plastic storage containers stacked in her arms. I can see the Carhartt slippers in one of them, already sitting on top like she wanted them accessible. The Victoria's Secret bag is in another. The Dry Bar bottle and the Fenty bottles are in a canvas tote that she is carrying in one hand. And I can see her trying to hold them all, trying to keep them from spilling, trying to preserve the inventory of her brief occupation of my space. It is a small pile. It is a week's worth of things. It is not the infrastructure of a permanent move. It is the belongings of someone who was always planning a temporary occupation, who was banking on not having to face the person who actually owned the space. I don't have a car, she says. She's looking at Marcus, not at me. Can you help me take these? Marcus stands there. He is trying to figure out what he has done, what he has chosen. He is trying to understand whether his girlfriend or his mother is the person he is supposed to stand next to. And he does not understand yet that this is not a choice he gets to make right now. His mother has already chosen for him. Your car, I say to Destiny. The one in my parking spot. The Kia Soul with the cracked rear bumper. She does not answer. You will take your things to your car, and you will drive away from this address. You will not come back to this house without being invited. You will not call Marcus from this house. You will not text him about this house. You will not post anything on social media about this address. And if I find out that you have done any of those things, I will have Gloria Vargas file a notice that will make you understand the difference between a mother asking you to leave and the law telling you that you have to. Okay. Gloria Vargas is my friend, and she is a senior paralegal at Flores Family Law and Civil Litigation, which means she knows how to write a letter that sounds like it has weight. Destiny does not know that Gloria is my friend. Destiny does not know that this is a bluff, or not a bluff. She just knows that I am serious, and that my seriousness is the most dangerous thing in the room right now. She leaves. Marcus helps her carry the containers to the car, and I listen to them from the kitchen. I listen to the sound of a trunk opening and closing. I listen to the sound of an engine starting. I listen to the sound of the Kia Soul backing out of my designated parking spot. Spot 114, the spot that belonged to me before Destiny Pruitt ever drove down Delwood Circle. Spot 114, where the brass numerals are still there, still bright, still marking the place that my mother and I screwed into the curb post in May of 2007. Spot 114, which is empty now, and mine again. Marcus comes back inside. He closes the door behind him, and he stands in the kitchen looking at his mother like he is trying to understand who she is. "I'm sorry," he says. "I didn't think you would be mad." "I am not mad," I say, and I'm not. I am something much quieter than mad. I am something that has already decided. I am something that is going to spend the next few days making phone calls and reading documents and understanding exactly what it means to own something and to protect it. I am something that is going to remember that my mother told me a long time ago that peace is not a joint venture. And she was right. And I forgot that for 4 days while I was in Macon. And now I am going to remember it in a way that nobody in this house will ever be allowed to forget. We need to talk about what happens next, I say. But not tonight. Tonight, you are going to go to your room and think about what you have done. Think about the conditions I gave you when you moved in. Think about the 3 things you promised me. Tomorrow morning, we are going to talk about what you are going to do to make this right. He turns to leave, and I say his name. Marcus! He stops in the doorway. He is waiting for me to say something that will make this better. Something that will undo the last 5 days. Something that will let him feel loved and still feel right about what he did. When you come back down, I say, you're going to bring me the key. Marcus stands at the kitchen sink. He has his hands on the edge of the counter, and his shoulders are set in a way that tells me he is getting ready to defend something. Not to apologize for it. To defend it? He turns to face me, and I can see him assembling his argument in real time. The way you assemble something when you know it sounds bad, but you have spent 4 days convincing yourself it is reasonable. Mama, I live here, he says. I pay a portion of the utilities. This is my home too, and Destiny had nowhere to go. I do not respond. I sit with his words and I let him understand that speaking does not make something true. Living somewhere and owning somewhere and having the right to make decisions about someone else's space are 3 different things. And my son is about to learn that lesson whether he wants to or not. Her lease ended and she didn't have anywhere to go. Marcus continues. He is building his case. I can see him doing it. He is constructing a narrative where he was the hero, and his mother was unreasonable to expect him to turn away a person in need. I wasn't going to leave her on the street. I wasn't going to put her in a hotel when I had space. When you had space that was just sitting empty. When I had space that you do not own. I say. My voice is not loud. My voice is not angry. My voice is the voice of someone who is listening very carefully to what her son is telling her. And what he is telling her is that he has made a decision about her property based on his sense of what is compassionate and reasonable, based on his right to be the generous one, based on his belief that his mother's grief would make her too tired to enforce a boundary. Tell me about the timings, Marcus. He does not want to answer that question. I can see it in the way his jaw tightens, the way he looks at Destiny, generous one, based on his belief that his mother's grief would make her too tired to enforce a boundary. Tell me about the timings, Marcus. He does not want to answer that question. I can see it in the way his jaw tightens, the way he looks at Destiny like he is hoping she will say something that will help him. But I am not going to help him. I am not going to make this easier for him. I am going to sit here, and I am going to ask questions until he understands that I have already figured out what happened, that the evidence is not a mystery waiting to be solved. It is a story waiting to be acknowledged. What do you mean? He says. The timing. I repeat. I am being very deliberate with my words now. I am not rushing. I am not emotional. I am the opposite of emotional. I am the cold clarity of someone who has just realized that her son looked at her grief and saw logistics. Your girlfriend lost her apartment. When did that happen? April 28th, Destiny says. She is still standing. I do not remember asking her to sit down. But she is still standing. And now she is answering questions that were not directed at her. This tells me something about the structure of power in this room that nobody asked me to participate in. It tells me that Destiny has already established herself as the person who speaks for this situation. And Marcus has already positioned himself as someone who needs her to speak for him. She is the one with the plan. He is the one with the key. My lease was up at the end of April. I look at Destiny. I look at Marcus. I look at the pound cake on the counter, still foil wrapped, still untouched. A gift from a woman at my mother's repast who knew what it meant to send food as a way of saying I see you. I acknowledge what you are carrying. The Bible is in front of me on the table. The kitchen is quiet except for the sound of the refrigerator, which cycles on and off like it always does, like it is just another Sunday evening in a woman's house. But it is not just another Sunday. It is the first Sunday after my mother went into the ground. And it is the first evening since I understood that my son looked at my absence and saw an opportunity. When is the funeral? I ask Marcus. Saturday, he says. He still does not understand what I am asking him. He still thinks this is about Destiny's homelessness and his compassion and the fact that a young woman needed help. He has not yet understood that I am building a timeline and that the timeline is going to show him something about his own choices that he does not want to see. And when did I leave for Meakin? Thursday morning, he says. The answer comes without hesitation. He knows when his mother left. He knows because he had marked it. He knows because he had already made his decision about what he was going to do with those 4 days. So, I say, and I let the silence sit between my words and his understanding, sit between my observation and his realization. Your girlfriend's lease ended on April 28th. The apartment was no longer available to her. But she did not come to you on April 29th. She did not come to you on April 30th. She did not come to you on Friday evening when you could have called and told your mother what was happening. She came to you on Thursday morning, the exact day that her lease became a problem she could not ignore. The exact day that her solution was your mother's absence. The exact day that your mother was driving to Macon to bury her own mother. Marcus opens his mouth. He closes it again. He is trying to find words that will make this sound different than it sounds. He is trying to find a version of events where Thursday morning is a coincidence instead of a calculation. I didn't plan it like that, he says finally. But even as he says it, I can see him understanding that the math does not care what his intentions were. The math is the math. April 28th, Thursday, Sunday, the 4-day window, the funeral on Saturday, the equation that adds up to a choice that was made before my mother even died. A choice that depended on her being out of this house long enough for destiny to become enmeshed in the space. To make herself so present that removing her would feel like removing a part of the house itself. Then, explain it to me differently. I say, I am sitting very still. I am not moving. I am not using my hands to make points. I am simply sitting at my own kitchen table, in my own house, and asking my son to defend a timeline that cannot be defended. Explain to me how your girlfriend's lease ending on April 28th and her moving into my master bedroom on Thursday morning, while I am in Macon at my mother's funeral, is not a deliberate plan. Destiny is looking at her hands. Marcus is looking at me. Neither of them has an explanation that fits the facts. Neither of them has a story that stands up to the evidence. The 4 days are too convenient. The timing is too precise. The settlement is too complete. Someone who moves into a space for one night does not move 3 plastic storage containers of belongings under the bed. Someone who is just helping a girlfriend out for a few days does not organize her wardrobe by color in someone else's closet. Someone who is just crashing does not unpack her toiletries and arrange them with the precision of someone planning to stay. Where are the extra towels? I ask Destiny. In the whole closet, she says immediately, not hesitating, not guessing, not thinking about it, knowing where they are kept because she has already been in this house long enough to explore it, to familiarize herself with where things are stored, to learn the geography of someone else's home well enough to move through it like she belongs there, like she has already claimed it. And how long did it take you to know where the extra towels were kept? She does not answer. She is looking at her hands like the answer is written there. Like if she just looks long enough, the right words will appear. Did you know when you arrived on Thursday morning? I ask. I am being very specific now. I am being very clear. I am asking questions that I already know the answers to because I need her to hear herself say them. Did you walk in and somehow intuitively understand that the extra towels were in the hall closet, on the left side, behind the roll of extra toilet paper that I bought in bulk from Costco 2 months ago? No, Destiny says. Her voice is very small now. She understands that I am not asking her these questions because I do not know the answers. I am asking her these questions because I want her to understand, in her own words, what her actions tell me about her intentions. I want her to understand that every choice she made in the last 4 days is evidence against her. Every unpacked bag, every drawer opened, every cabinet explored. So you learned that in the 4 days I was in Macon. I say, you learned where the towels are kept, and you learned where the mugs are stored, and you learned how the shower works, and you learned the layout of my bedroom well enough to move your wardrobe into the left side of my closet and organize it by color. You learned where I keep my good sheets, the ones I do not use every day. You learned where I keep my bed pillows, the ones that are not the ones I sleep on. You learned all of that in 4 days because you were not just staying somewhere. You were settling somewhere. You were not waiting for an emergency to pass. You were building a foothold. That is settlement. That is occupation. That is someone planning to stay. I stand up. I pick up my mother's Bible. The weight of it in my hands is real. It is leather and paper and the sound of prayers that Odessa Holloway believed in. It is the weight of a woman who came before me and told me things about peace and boundaries and what a woman owes herself. The weight of it is 42 years of teaching other people's children and raising her own and being a deacon's wife and building a life that was hers and only hers. The weight of it is my mother, who told me at 16 that being underestimated is a superpower if you are paying attention. And I have been paying attention to everything in this room for the last 30 minutes. I have been watching. I have been listening. I have been calculating. I have been assembling the evidence in real time. And I have understood that my son has miscalculated exactly how much his mother has always been paying attention. I'm going to bed, I say. We will finish this in the morning. It sounds like an exit. It sounds like a mother who has had enough and is withdrawing from the field, giving up, deciding that it is too late to fight. But I'm not withdrawing. I am beginning. I am the person who walked into this house at 7:12 on a Sunday evening and found her peace violated while she was burying her mother. I am the person who is going to spend the night making phone calls and reading documents and understanding exactly what the next 30 days look like. I am the person who is going to pick up the phone at midnight and call Gloria Vargas, who will answer on the second ring because Gloria Vargas is the kind of woman who understands that a friend calling at midnight on a Sunday is not calling with good news or a casual question. I climb the stairs. I do not look back at Marcus. I do not look back at Destiny. I do not say anything else. I simply pick up my mother's Bible and I walk past my son and his girlfriend and I climb the stairs to my room and I close the door. My door, on my room, in my house, the one with my name on the deed and only my name, the way my mother taught me to write it. I sit on the edge of my bed in the dark. I do not turn on the light. I sit in the dark with my mother's Bible in my lap, and I begin to understand what my mother understood all her life. Peace is not something that comes to you because you deserve it. Peace is something that you have to build and protect and defend. Peace is something that requires boundaries, and boundaries require enforcement. And enforcement requires a woman who is willing to be the person that everyone else finds difficult. Enforcement requires a woman who will not flinch when her son looks at her like she is the unreasonable one. I sit in the dark and I think about what I'm going to do. I think about Gloria Vargas. I think about the $312,000 appraisal value of this house. I think about the deed with my name on it. I think about the fact that Destiny Pruitt has no legal standing in this space whatsoever, and my son has only the standing I gave him, which was conditional, and which he has violated. I think about the 30-day notice and the notary, and the way that written words on a legal document carry more weight than anything that happens in a kitchen on a Sunday night. I am going to be the woman who takes action. I am going to be the woman who protects what is hers. I am going to be the woman who understands that her son has made a choice, and that choice has consequences. Downstairs, I can hear them moving around. I can hear them trying to figure out what comes next. I can hear Marcus whispering to Destiny, trying to make sense of something that no longer makes sense now that his mother has assembled the timeline. But I already know what comes next. I know because I've decided it. I know because my mother taught me how to sit still and wait and let other people make their mistakes. And then I know how to move. I know how to move with precision. I know how to move with the kind of calm that only comes from a decision that is already made. I do not sleep. I sit in the dark with my mother's Bible beside me and my phone in my hands, and I wait for Gloria to text me back. When she does, it is not with a question or a reassurance. It is with screenshots. 3 of them and then more. The first one is an Instagram story from Destiny Pruitt's account, posted on Thursday at 2:47 p.m. There is a photograph of my back garden, the one I planted 17 years ago, the one that has fed this family in 6 summers of abundance, the one that is mine and only mine. The caption says, Spring Goals. Below the caption, in a small grey box, is the location tag, 114 Delwood Circle. Not my boyfriend's house, not a friend's place, just the address, just the claim. I zoom in on the image. I can see the eggplants I planted last month. I can see the collard greens coming in along the fence. I can see the tomato cages that I assembled myself. I can see the specific patch of earth that I worked for hours to prepare. I see my garden, documented by a stranger, captioned with hope, tagged with my address like Destiny Pruitt is announcing to the world that this belongs to her now. Gloria sends another screenshot. Friday at 10:33 am. Another post from the same account. This one is a photograph of the kitchen. My kitchen. The sunlight is coming through the window at that specific angle that only happens in the morning when the sun hits from the east. There is a coffee mug on the counter. The caption says home, not visiting, not staying for a few days, not my boyfriend's mum's place. Just one word. Home. The location tag is there again. 114 Delwood Circle. The third screenshot is Saturday at 6:15 p.m. After the funeral. After I've spent the entire day in a white church in Willis County, standing next to my mother's casket, receiving condolences from 348 people who knew her name and her voice, and her way of moving through the world. Destiny has posted another photograph. It is the bathroom. The one with the good lighting. The one she talked about on the phone while my mother was being lowered into the ground. The caption says, finally. One word. Finally. Like she has been waiting her whole life to claim this bathroom. To claim this address, to claim this piece of my life as her own. The location tag is still there. Well, still tagging 114 Delwood Circle. Still claiming ownership of my address. Gloria has added her own message below the screenshots. She's been tagging your address since Thursday. I pulled these from a mutual contact story because she privated her account after I started looking. She knows you came home. She's been documenting it the whole time you were in Macon. I look at the time on my phone. It is 1:17 a.m. I have been sitting in the dark for 5 hours, reading what Gloria has sent me. I have not cried. I have not screamed. I have not done anything except read and think and understand. I have been assembling a picture of what my son and his girlfriend did while I was burying my mother. And the picture is very clear. Gloria sends another message. There's more. Marcus has a coworker. She texted me, said Destiny's been telling everyone at the warehouse that she basically has her own place now, that she's living with her boyfriend and his family, that it's permanent, that she's not going back to the salon. I read that message 3 times. I read it very slowly, and I let each word sink in. Permanent, that is the word that matters. Not temporary, not an emergency situation. Permanent. She told people at the warehouse that her occupation of my house is permanent. I stand up. I walk to the master bedroom closet. I turn on the light. The closet light is bright and white and unforgiving. It shows me everything that I've tried not to see clearly until now. I begin to count. 1 plastic storage container. Clear plastic. I can see through to the contents without opening it. Folded items. Organized by type, not jumbled. Not the quick packing of someone who might change their mind. The organization of someone who is building a foothold. 2 plastic storage containers. Pushed under the bed. Hidden. Accessible only if you know they are there. 3 plastic storage containers. The third one is the furthest under the bed, the one that requires reaching for, the one that will not be noticed unless you look for it deliberately. Auntie, unless you are standing in a closet at one now. Oh. Trying to understand what your son has done. I pull them out and line them up on the carpet. I open the first one. Sweaters, summer sweaters, fall sweaters, winter sweaters, an entire season's worth of clothing, folded in thirds, each one laid on top of the other, like they are going to be here through every season that comes. Someone has taken time to do this. Someone has thought about this. Someone has imagined herself staying here long enough to need different sweaters for different seasons. I open the second container. Scarves. Rolled scarves in every color. Red, navy, grey, burgundy, forest green. Each one rolled and placed next to the other like a color wheel. Organized, thoughtful, permanent. I open the third container. Shoes, multiple pairs, flats, high heels, sneakers, work shoes, casual shoes, more shoes than someone wears in a week, more shoes than someone owns if they are planning to leave soon. I go to the vanity. There is a white wicker basket sitting on my shelf. A basket I have never seen before. A basket that does not belong to me. A basket that is sitting on my vanity like it has always been there, like it is the most natural thing in the world, for someone else's toiletries to occupy space in someone else's bedroom. Inside the basket are the things she mentioned on the phone. The Dry Bar Volumizer spray in the navy bottle. The Fenty skincare in the rose gold packaging that catches the light. The oral care kit from Target. The makeup brushes. The hair ties. The bobby pins. The entire infrastructure of a person's daily life. unpacked and arranged on my vanity shelf like she is settling in for the long term. Like she has already decided that this is hers. I walk to the bathroom. I stand in the doorway, and I do not need to look for anything because I already know what I will find. But I need to see it. I need to make myself see it, so that when I am remembering this moment, when I am thinking about this night, I will remember that I did not miss anything. I did not choose to look away. Behind the bathroom door, there are 2 pairs of house slippers. The first pair is Marcus's. Grey Carhartt. Men's size. Worn at the heel from a year of wearing. The pile of the carpet underneath them is compressed from weight and time and habit. These slippers belong here. These slippers have roots. The second pair, smaller. The same style, but smaller. The heels are worn soft. I touch them and they are soft at the bottom, the way slippers get soft when someone wears them every day. Every morning, every night, the carpet underneath them has formed an imprint. The pile of the rug has been compressed. The texture of the floor has changed shape. These slippers have been here long enough to alter the physical structure of my house. These slippers have been here long enough that they are not going anywhere. I go back to the bedroom. I sit on the edge of my bed in the dark. I do not turn on the light. I do not need the light anymore. I already know what is true. I already understand what happened. I have known since Marcus said her lease ended, and I calculated the timeline and understood that my son did the math. I pick up the photograph of my mother. It is still turned face down on the dresser. The back of the frame is facing me. The glass is facing the wall. Odessa Holloway's face is hidden. Her Easter dress is hidden. Her smile is hidden. I turn it upright. I look at my mother's face for the first time since I came home and found a stranger in my bedroom. I look at her. I look at the certainty in her expression. I look at the way her hand is resting on the white pillar of Mount. Calvary Baptist, like she is asking for blessing and believing that she will receive it. I look at my mother's face and I understand what she understood all her life. What she tried to teach me when I was 16 years old. What I have been trying to remember for the last 5 hours. My son looked at my grief and did not see his mother. He looked at my grief and saw logistics. He looked at my absence and saw opportunity. He calculated, he did the math. Thursday through Sunday. Funeral on Saturday. 4 days without a mother in the house. 4 days to move a woman into my bedroom and make her occupation of the space permanent enough that removing her would require paperwork. Permanent enough that it would require lawyers. Permanent enough that he could tell himself his mother was being unreasonable when she objected. Thursday, his mother leaves at 6 Destiny's lease is a problem by 2:47 p.m. When she posts a photograph of the garden. Friday, his mother is at the funeral. Destiny is unpacking storage containers and organizing them under the bed. Saturday, his mother is standing and receiving. Destiny is tagging her address on Instagram. Destiny is claiming ownership. Destiny is telling people at the warehouse that this is permanent. Sunday, his mother comes home and finds a stranger in her bedroom, and her son is waiting to explain why that is reasonable. It is not an accident. It is not a spontaneous decision made in a moment of compassion for someone in need. It is a plan. It is a calculation. It is a son who looked at his mother's devastation and saw a window. It is a girlfriend who looked at that window and understood how to climb through it. I set the photograph back on the dresser. I make sure it is facing forward. I make sure it is in the exact spot where it has lived for 6 years. I position it so that my mother is looking out at the room, at the space that has been invaded, at the space that needs to be reclaimed. I go to the bed and I sit down, and I pick up my phone, and I type a message to Gloria Vargas. My hands are steady. My mind is clear. I need Camille's number tonight. Gloria responds in less than a minute. Not with a question. Not with sympathy. Not with reassurance. Just a statement. I'll call you. She does. She picks up on the first ring, which tells me that she was waiting. She knew this was coming. She knows me well enough to understand that a woman does not sit up until one assembling evidence unless she has decided something irreversible. She knows that a woman does not ask for a managing attorney's number in the middle of the night unless she has made a choice that is going to require documentation and lawyers and formality and the kind of cold precision that only comes from someone who has stopped being angry and started being dangerous. Tell me everything, Gloria says. Her voice is clear. She is not sleepy. She is already awake because she has been waiting for this call, preparing for it, understanding that when a woman starts looking for evidence at 1A, she is going to need a lawyer. And I do. I tell her about the Instagram posts. I tell her about the timestamps. I tell her about the location tags. I tell her about the photographs of my garden, my kitchen, my bathroom, all tagged with my address. I tell her about the warehouse co-worker who said destiny told people the occupation is permanent. I tell her about the storage containers and the scarves organized by color and the shoes that never belonged here and the second pair of house slippers that have left an imprint in my carpet. I tell her about my son, who calculated his mother's grief and decided it was a window he could use. I tell her all of it, and I do not cry while I am telling her, and I do not raise my voice, and I do not do anything except state the facts in the order they occurred, in the order they matter. When I finish, Gloria is quiet for a moment. I can hear her breathing. I can hear her thinking. I'm calling Camille, she says. She needs to hear this tonight. And Renata, we are going to handle this correctly. We are going to handle it so completely that nobody will ever be able to say you did this without reason. Nobody will ever be able to say you did this out of anger or emotion or grief. We are going to make sure that the paperwork tells the story. And the paperwork is going to be very clear about what happened here and what needs to happen next. Okay, I say. And you are going to need to be patient. Gloria continues. You are going to need to be precise. You are going to need to be cold. You are going to need to be the kind of woman who documents everything and follows every rule and makes every move deliberately. Can you do that? Yes, I say. And I mean it. I mean it with the kind of certainty that only comes from understanding that my mother was right. That being underestimated is a superpower if you are paying attention. And I have been paying attention to everything. I call Gloria at 1:47. The phone rings twice, and she answers before the second ring finishes. She was already awake. Gloria Vargas is 51 years old, and she has been a senior paralegal at Flores Family Law and Civil Litigation for 22 years. and she has learned to sleep with half her mind still alert, still ready, still waiting for a friend to call in the middle of the night with the kind of news that requires lawyers and strategy, and the kind of cold precision that only comes from understanding that emotion is not a tool, but documentation is. Talk, she says. I talk, I tell her everything, and I do not cry while I am telling her, and I do not edit or soften the story. I tell her about Marcus and Destiny and the 4-day window. I tell her about the Instagram posts and the captions and the location tags. I tell her about the storage containers and the scarves organized by color, and the second pair of house slippers that have left an imprint in my carpet. I tell her about the warehouse co-worker and the text message that said the occupation is permanent. I tell her about my son calculating his mother's grief and deciding it was a resource he could use. And Gloria listens to every word, and she does not interrupt me. And when I am finished, she is quiet for a moment, and then she speaks with the calm certainty of someone who has seen this pattern before and knows exactly how it ends. We are calling Camille tomorrow morning, Gloria says, as soon as the sun is up. 7 a.m. Before Marcus and Destiny wake up, before they have time to organize a story. And then you are going to do exactly what we tell you to do. And you are not going to deviate from it. And we are going to make sure that this is handled correctly and completely and in a way that cannot be challenged later. Okay, I say. I'm coming to your house tonight. Gloria says, 9 o'clock. I'm bringing a legal pad, and I'm bringing 22 years of family law experience, and we are going to go through every single date and every single number and every single fact that you have. And we are going to build something so airtight that Marcus and Destiny are not going to have any room to maneuver. Harvey, they are not going to be able to say you overreacted. They are not going to be able to say you were emotional. They are not going to be able to say you did not give them a chance. Because everything we do tonight is going to be documented. And everything we do is going to be legal. And everything we do is going to be permanent. She hangs up before I can say anything else. That is Gloria. Gloria does not waste time on reassurance or comfort. Gloria wastes time on precision. She arrives at 114 Delwood Circle at exactly 9 p.m. I can see her car pull up from the kitchen window. She sits in my house while Marcus and Destiny are in the second bedroom, presumably trying to figure out what comes next, what their mother's sudden coldness means, whether they have miscalculated something. Gloria has a yellow legal pad tucked under one arm and a pen tucked behind her ear, and she sits down at my kitchen table like she has been preparing for this moment for the entire 22 years she has worked in family law, handling situations where families break along the fault lines of boundary and betrayal. Show me everything, she says. I show her the Instagram screenshots. I show her the timestamps. I show her the captions. I show her the location tags. I show her the photographs of the storage containers and the second pair of slippers and the toiletry basket that is not mine and the scarves organized by color. I show her the co-worker's message about Destiny, telling people at the warehouse that the occupation is permanent, that she is not going back to the salon, that she has basically got her own place now. I show her the lease agreement that Marcus signed 14 months ago when he moved in. The one where he agreed to contribute to utilities, but where there is no mention of rent. No mention of how long he can stay. No mention of what happens if his mother decides she wants her house back. I show her every piece of evidence that I have gathered in the 5 hours since I came home and found a stranger in my bedroom. Gloria writes everything down. She writes dates. She writes names. She writes the exact wording of the Instagram captions, word for word. She writes spring goals and home and finally. She writes a timeline in a column on the left side of the page. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. She writes April 28th and she circles it twice. She writes the 4-day window and she underlines it. She writes the warehouse co-worker statement about permanence. She writes the number of storage containers. She writes second pair of slippers. Carpet impression indicates length of occupancy. She writes the amount that Marcus contributes to utilities. Not rent. She notes, but utilities. She circles that notation. She makes a note next to it in her own shorthand. Not legal occupancy basis, no lease, no rent, no agreement. When she is finished, she has filled 6 pages of the legal pad, and every page is dense with numbers and dates and facts, and the facts are very clear and cannot be disputed. We are calling Camille at 7 Gloria says. The moment she is in the office, the moment the sun is up, and we are going to tell her everything. And she is going to tell us exactly how to handle this. And we are going to handle it correctly and completely. At 7 a.m. Monday morning, Gloria dials Camille Flores, managing attorney of Flores Family Law and Civil Litigation. Camille's voice on the phone is calm and clear and carries the particular authority of someone who has been practicing law long enough to know exactly what needs to happen in any given situation. Someone who does not second-guess herself. Someone who understands that hesitation is often what allows bad situations to become worse. Gloria puts the phone on speaker, and I listen while Gloria explains the situation. She does not take long. Gloria knows how to present information precisely. She gives Camille as the facts without embellishment. The house at 114 Delwood Circle. The owner, Renata Holloway, sole name on the deed. Mortgage paid off since 2021. The son, Marcus Holloway, age 23, living there for 14 months. Contributes to utilities. No written agreement. No rent payment. The girlfriend, Destiny Pruitt, age 22, moved in 4 days ago. No written agreement, no rent payment, no legal standing of any kind. The timeline, April 28th, lease termination, Thursday, mother leaves for funeral, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, girlfriend unpacks belongings, photographs the space, tags the address on Instagram, tells people at work the occupation is permanent. Sunday evening, mother returns home and discovers the violation. Camille asks one question. Is the house in Renata's name only? Yes, I say. Then this is straightforward, as Camille says. We are going to do it correctly, so that it is also permanent. We are going to serve a 30-day notice of required vacancy. The notice is going to be formal. The notice is going to be notarized. The notice is going to be served in person by a notary public. The notice is going to cover both the son and the girlfriend. The son is a tenant at will, given his 14 months of residency and his utility contributions. That creates a tenancy in the legal sense, which means he is entitled to a formal notice to vacate. The girlfriend has 0 legal standing because there is no lease, there is no rent, and there is no agreement of any kind. But we are going to serve her anyway, because we are going to do this so completely and so correctly that nobody is going to be able to question it later. Nobody is going to be able to claim that the notice was improper. Nobody is going to be able to claim that the service was unfair. Everything is going to be documented. Everything is going to be legal. Gloria is writing everything down on a new page of the legal pad. She is writing 30-day notice. Notarized, in-person service, tenant at will, 0 legal standing. She is building the architecture of what is about to happen, the structure that will hold everything in place. The notice will be formal. Camille continues. It will cite the property address. It will cite the names of both parties. It will cite the date of service. It will state the date by which they are required to vacate the premises, and it will state the consequence of non-compliance. If they do not vacate by the date specified, additional legal action will be pursued. We are serving this notice on Monday morning. The vacate by date will be June 4th. That is 30 days from the date of service. That gives them 30 days to understand that they are not negotiating, that they do not have options, that the owner of the house has decided, and the decision is legal, and the decision is permanent. Gloria circles June 4th on the legal pad. She circles it twice. June 4th, that is 30 days from now. That is the day that Marcus and Destiny will no longer have any legal right to occupy the space. That is the day that my house becomes mine again, completely and without question. That is the day that the violation ends. How do we serve the notice? Gloria asks. Do we serve it ourselves? Absolutely not. Camille says. We do not serve it ourselves. That is crucial. A neutral third party serves it. We hire a notary public. The notary documents the service. The notary obtains signatures. Everything is documented. Everything is on the record. Everything is legal. When we are done, there is a paper trail that shows exactly what happened, exactly when it happened, and exactly who was notified, and in what manner. That paper trail is what makes this permanent. Gloria writes that down. Neutral third party. Notary public, documentation, paper trail, permanent. Camille explains the language of the notice. It will not be angry. It will not be accusatory. It will be simple and direct and legally precise. It will state facts. It will cite the property address. It will list the names. It will state the date of service. It will state the date of required vacancy. It will state the consequence. It will be professional. It will be undeniable. What about cost? Gloria asks. A notary public typically charges $75 for this type of service. Camille says, you will pay that fee in cash the evening before. Everything will be arranged in advance. The notary will arrive at the property on Monday morning at 8:45. Both parties will be present. Both parties will be served. Both parties will receive a copy of the notice. Both parties will understand that this is not a negotiation. This is a requirement. This is legal. And if they do not comply, we will have a documented record of the service, and we will be fully prepared to pursue whatever legal remedies are necessary. When the call ends, Gloria and I sit at my kitchen table for a long time without speaking. The yellow legal pad is in front of us, and it is full of dates and names and facts and consequences. The legal pad is the bridge between what happened and what is going to happen. The legal pad is the transformation of violation into case. The legal pad is the beginning of permanence. Renata, Gloria says, and her voice is very steady, very clear. When we do this, when we serve this notice on Monday morning, you are going to need to be prepared for several things. You are going to need to be prepared for Marcus to be angry. You are going to need to be prepared for Destiny to be angry. You are going to need to be prepared for them to say that you are being cruel, that you are being unreasonable, that you are being a bad mother and a selfish person. You are going to need to be prepared for them to say that you are overreacting to a situation that they did not think was serious. You are going to need to be prepared for all of that. And you are going to need to stand firm. Because what you are doing is not cruel. What you are doing is defending your property. What you are doing is enforcing a boundary that you set and that was violated. What you are doing is protecting what belongs to you. I understand, I say. Good, Gloria says. Because starting Monday morning at 8:45, everything changes. Monday morning, a notary public is going to walk up to your front door with a document in her hands. Monday morning, both Marcus and Destiny are going to receive a piece of paper that says they have 30 days to leave this house. Monday morning, this stops being a family dispute and starts being a legal matter. And once it becomes a legal matter, emotion does not matter anymore. Intention does not matter. Justification does not matter. Only facts matter. Only dates matter. Only the law matters. I look at the legal pad. I look at the pages that Gloria has filled with precision and care. I look at June 4th, circled twice. I look at the timeline. I look at the architecture of what is about to happen. Gloria pays the notary fee that evening, $75 in cash, handed directly to the notary with a receipt tucked into the yellow legal pad and filed away. $75 to change everything. $75 to transform violation into documentation. $75 to make sure that when Marcus and Destiny receive the notice on Monday morning at 8:45 a.m., they will understand that this is not their mother being emotional. This is not their mother being reactive. This is their mother being strategic. This is their mother being legal. This is their mother being permanent. Gloria schedules the service herself. 8:45 Amaf. Monday, 114 Delwood Circle. Both parties present. Documentation required. Signature required. Everything official. Everything recorded. Everything permanent. Patricia arrives at 8:45. Monday. I can see her car pull up from the kitchen window. She is wearing a blazer and carrying a leather folder. And she walks past the white Kia Soul sitting in spot 114. Destiny has not moved it in 5 days. Not once, like leaving it there as a claim on the space. And she rings the doorbell like she does this every day. Which she probably does. She does not know that this moment is the turning point. She does not know that she is about to deliver something that cannot be undone, that cannot be negotiated, that cannot be made softer by apology or explanation. I have been awake since 6. I made coffee in the quiet of my kitchen before anyone else woke up, before Marcus and Destiny woke up, before the day became official. My coffee, in my kitchen, the coffee tastes the way coffee is supposed to taste when you are the person who belongs in the place where it is being made. I have placed 3 things on the breakfast table. 2 copies of the 30-day notice of required vacancy, already signed by Camila Flores in her confident hand, already notarized by the state seal, already legal and permanent and impossible to argue with. 1 copy of the deed to 114 Delwood Circle, bearing 1 name and only 1 name, Renata Holloway. No "and", no amendments in the margins, no asterisks, no conditions, just my name, the way my mother told me to write it, and my mother's Bible, the one she held at church for 42 years, the one that came with me to Macon, the one that will be here tomorrow and the next day, and for the rest of the time that I live in this house. I do not wake Marcus and Destiny. I let the knock on the door do it. Patricia enters without rushing. She is a woman who knows how to be professional and neutral, who understands that notarizing documents means bearing witness to moments that matter, but are not about her feelings. She carries a leather folder and a notarial seal, and the kind of composure that comes from understanding that her job is to witness and document and move on. She stands in my living room, and she looks like exactly what she is, a representative of the state, here to make something legal, here to make something permanent. I can see the moment Marcus comes out of the second bedroom and sees her. I can see his face moving through confusion into something else. Something that looks like understanding arriving 4 days too late. He does not understand what a notary is doing in his mother's living room at 8:45 in the morning on a Monday. He is still in the story where he is a reasonable person who helped a girlfriend out of a bad situation. He is still in the story where his mother is angry but will calm down if he explains himself correctly. He is still in the story where this can be negotiated. Destiny comes out behind him, and she understands before he does. She understands because women understand consequences faster than men do. She understands because she has been reading the temperature in this house for 5 days, and she knows that something has shifted. She understands because her lease ended on April 28th, and she is about to understand that that date was the beginning of the end. I am here to serve notice of required vacancy, Patricia says. Her voice is professional and clear and carries the weight of the state behind it. Both parties must be present. Are both parties present? Marcus is here. Destiny is here. I am here. This is the moment that everything changes. This is the moment that becomes real and documented and permanent. Patricia lays out the document on my kitchen table. The document is formal. The document is official. The document has Camille Flores' signature and the notarial seal and language that is precise and legal and cannot be misinterpreted. She reads it aloud, and her voice does not waver. She reads the property address, 114 Delwood Circle. She reads the names of the parties, Marcus Holloway and Destiny Pruitt. She reads the date of service, today, May 5th. She reads the date by which the property must be vacated. June 4th, 30 days, 1 month, 4 weeks. She reads the consequence of non-compliance. If the parties do not vacate by June 4th, additional legal action will be pursued, including but not limited to eviction proceedings and the assessment of court costs and attorney fees. She reads the notarial certification. She reads it like it is a legal document that will stand up in court. Because it is. She reads it like it matters. Because it does. Both parties are served. Both parties receive a copy. Patricia obtains signatures confirming service. Everything is documented. Everything is on the record. Everything is permanent. Marcus's first response is to slam his hand on the breakfast table. The sound is loud in the kitchen. The coffee mug rattles. Destiny flinches. "This house is my home too," he says. His voice is raised now. He is reacting instead of thinking. "You can't just kick me out like this. I pay utilities. I live here. I have for 14 months. I do not raise my voice. I do not match his energy. I do not argue or defend or explain. I simply reach across the table and I slide the deed toward him. 1 page, legal description, recorded in Fulton County. 1 name, Renata Holloway. No amendment. No in Marcus. No in destiny. No in family. Just the name. Just the fact. Just the law. "Read it," I say. He does not want to read it. But he picks it up anyway. His hands are shaking a little bit. He reads the legal description of the property. 114 Delwood Circle. He reads the purchase date, May 2007. He reads the mortgage payoff date, 2021. He reads the name on the deed, Renata Holloway. 1 name. He reads it, and he understands. And his face shows me the exact moment when understanding arrives. The moment when he realizes that he miscalculated. The moment when he realizes that his mother was not too grief-stricken to enforce a boundary. The moment when he realizes that his mother was grieving and also paying attention and also planning. I stand up. I walk to the dresser in my bedroom. My bedroom, the one that has been occupied for 5 days by someone who had no right to be there. The one that will be mine again by next week. And I pick up the photograph of my mother. She is in her Easter dress, the color of fresh butter. She is standing outside Mount Calvary Baptist on a Sunday in April 2019, one of the last photographs of her before she got sick. One of the photographs where her smile is certain and her stance is strong, and her hand is resting on the white pillar like she is asking for something and believing that she will receive it. I bring the photograph back to the breakfast table and I set it down facing Marcus so that Odessa Holloway is looking at her grandson, at her daughter, at the room when I say what I have been carrying since Sunday night, what I have been waiting to say since the moment I understood that my son calculated his mother's vulnerability and decided to use it. Your grandmother co-signed the note on this house in 2007, I say. She told me to put 1 name on the deed. I did. This is that name. The room is quiet. Patricia is quiet. She understands that she is witnessing something that goes beyond legal documentation. She is witnessing a woman reclaiming her boundary. She is witnessing a son understanding that his mother is not the person he thought she was. She is witnessing a daughter honoring her mother's wisdom. She is quiet because some moments require quiet. Destiny tries to speak. This is a misunderstanding, she says. Her voice is smaller now. We didn't think you would be this angry. We thought you were just upset because of the funeral. We thought you would calm down. We thought... June 4th, I say. 1 sentence. That is all the response this deserves. June 4th. 30 days from now. The deadline. The consequence. The end. She tries again, and her voice has changed. has become defensive in a way that means she is looking for someone to blame. You're being cruel. You're being a bad mother. He's your son. Family doesn't do this to family. You can't just throw him out of his own home. You have 30 days, I say. Well, one sentence. A pause long enough that it becomes its own response. A silence long enough that it fills the room and everything in it. A silence long enough that she understands that this is not negotiable. This is not a conversation. This is a consequence. Marcus stands there. He is not defending Destiny anymore. He is not defending himself. He is standing in my kitchen with the deed in his hand and his grandmother's photograph in front of him, and the understanding that he miscalculated his mother, arriving too late to change anything. He is understanding that his mother was working while he was sleeping. He is understanding that his mother called a lawyer. He is understanding that his mother served him with a notary and a document and the full weight of the law. He is understanding that his mother protected what was hers. Patricia collects her copies. She tucks the notarial seal back into her folder. She has done her job. She has witnessed. She has documented. She has made it permanent. She closes the folder and she opens the front door. The morning sunlight comes in. The living room fills with light. She walks past the white Kia Soul one more time, and I watch it from the window. By the end of the week, that car will be gone from spot 114. By the end of the week, I will park in my own spot again, in the spot marked with the brass numerals that my mother and I screwed into the curb post in May of 2007, when we were both still alive and both still believing that the boundary I set would hold forever. I refill my coffee. My coffee! In my kitchen. In my house. The house that belongs to me and only me. The house that my son tried to give away and discovered that he could not give away what did not belong to him. I sit at my kitchen table with my mother's photograph and my mother's Bible and the deed that bears my name and only my name. And I understand that this is what my mother was trying to teach me when I was 16 years old. That peace is not a negotiation. That peace is something you have to build and protect and defend. That peace is something you have to be willing to be the bad person for, from the perspective of the people who are counting on you to soften. By noon, spot 114 is empty. The white Kia Soul is gone. The parking spot is marked with the brass numerals and nothing else. The space that belongs to me is empty and waiting. By the end of the day, Marcus and Destiny have packed some bags. By the end of the week, they are gone. By June 4th, they will have vacated the premises, and I will have my house back completely, and my peace will be restored, not because someone gave it to me, but because I fought for it, documented it, made it legal, and made it permanent. This is what it means to be underestimated. This is what it means to be paying attention. This is what it means to be the daughter of a woman who knew that the most dangerous person in the room is often the one who is too tired to cry and has decided to act instead. Marcus and Destiny leave on May 19th, not because they realized they were wrong, not because they apologized or had some sudden moment of clarity and shame. They leave because staying inside a house whose owner has made the legal geometry unmistakably clear turns out to be less comfortable than they anticipated. They leave because every morning, the woman who owns the house is making coffee in her kitchen like she has always made coffee in her kitchen. And they are visitors with a deadline. They leave because 11 days before June 4th, is easier than staying until the deadline and then having to defend the fact that they are still here, that they are still taking up space, that they are still asking for accommodation. I do not watch them pack. I do not say goodbye or offer to help or do any of the things that would soften the transition. I simply open the back door one afternoon and let Deacon out, and when I come back inside, there are fewer cars in the driveway, and by evening, there is one car, and by the next morning, there is no car at all. The white Kia Soul that has been sitting in spot 114 is gone. The parking space is empty and waiting. The second bedroom is empty and waiting. The master bedroom is empty and waiting. I do not feel relief. I feel something quieter than that. I feel the particular calm of a woman who has done what was necessary and is now allowed to rest. Deacon comes back to sleep on the master bedroom pillow that first night. He stretches across the place where someone else was sleeping a week ago. And he purrs like he has been waiting for this moment. Like he understands that the house is returning to the people and animals who belong in it. I let him stay. I let him sleep there. I watch him curl up in the exact center of the pillow. And I understand that animals know things that people pretend not to know. They know when a space is safe again. They know when they can relax. The back garden has been damaged in the 5 days that people were occupying the space who should not have been occupying it. One row of collard greens has been trampled. The tomato cage that I built with my own hands has been bent. The soil where I planted the eggplants has been compacted by feet that did not care about what was growing there. I spend a Saturday afternoon in May replanting. I do not do this with anger. I do not do this with resentment. I do not do this while thinking about violation or betrayal. I simply do this because gardens need tending, and I am the one who tends them. I clear away the damaged greens. I turn the soil with the shovel that has been turning this soil for 17 years. I replant. I water. The plants do not know that they have been damaged. They do not carry a story about what happened to them. They simply know that the conditions are right again, and they grow. I watch them grow. I think about my mother, who told me that tending something is its own kind of power. You make the conditions right, and life responds. On a Wednesday afternoon, 2 weeks after Marcus and Destiny left, I call the church in Macon. I do not have a particular reason to call. I just want to hear a familiar voice. I want to hear someone who knew my mother when my mother was still alive. Sister Betty answers. She is the woman who pressed the pound cake into my hands at the repast. The woman who has been at Mount Calvary Baptist for as long as I have known my mother. The woman whose voice carries the particular weight of someone who has stood beside a lot of people through a lot of grief and understood that sometimes people just need to hear that someone is paying attention. Renata, she says. How are you, baby? I am here. I say, the garden is coming in. The house is quiet. My mother's Bible is on my kitchen table, and I have been reading it every morning. Good, she says. That is good. Your mother would be proud of you. I hope so, I say. We do not talk about Marcus. We do not talk about what happened in my bedroom or what I did about it. We just talk about the garden and the weather and the way that grief has a particular rhythm if you are paying attention to it. She tells me that the church is planning a revival in the fall, and she asks if I will come. I say yes. I will come. I will bring something. I do not know what yet, but I will bring something. I will show up. I will participate. I will remember my mother by being the kind of woman she raised me to be. 11 days after Marcus moves out, he calls. His voice sounds different. He is not calling to apologize. I can hear that in the way he breathes before he speaks, the way his words come carefully, like he is testing them out. Something inside him has shifted. Some story he was telling himself about his mother and his right to her house and his girlfriend, and the way that love means access. That story has lost structural integrity. He has tried to put it back together, and he cannot. The pieces do not fit anymore. "Mama," he says. "Yes," I say. "I don't understand what happened," he says. "I was just trying to help someone. I was just trying to be a good person. I was just trying to do the right thing." I listen. I do not fill the silence with explanation. I do not soften the consequence. I do not say, "I know, baby," or "I understand your intentions," or any of the things that would make this easier for him or would suggest that I made a mistake. "When you are ready to have a real conversation," I say, "I am here. I mean it. I am not here to punish him. I am not here to make him feel worse than he already feels. I am here to be his mother, which means enforcing a boundary, which means letting him understand that love and boundaries are not the same thing, which means teaching him that other people's peace is not a resource for him to use or borrow or temporarily occupy." On a Saturday morning in late May, I sit in the back garden with a cup of coffee. My coffee, in my kitchen, at my table, which is in my garden, which is in my house. My mother's Bible is open in front of me, and it is turned to Proverbs 31. The passage about a woman who builds her own house with her own hands, who plants her own vineyard, who tends her own garden, who knows the value of what her own hands have created. I read it. I read about the woman who girds her loins with strength and strengthens her arms. And I understand that these are not metaphors. These are things that a woman does. These are things that a woman actually does. I close the Bible and I look at the garden that is beginning to recover, that is beginning to grow again, that is beginning to return to the way it was supposed to be. The collard greens are reaching toward the sun. The tomato plants are flowering. The eggplants are small and promising. The garden is remembering how to be itself. "This is my house," I say, not to anyone in particular, just to the air, to the garden, to the universe that has been listening. My garden, my life, my story, and it is just getting started. There is no triumph in this statement, okay? There is no vindication or victory. There is no proclamation about justice being served or wrongs being righted. There is simply the fact of reclamation. And there is simply the fact of a woman who buried her mother and came home to find her piece had been borrowed without permission. And she took it back the only way that lasts, in writing, on the record, at 8:45 in the morning, with a notary and a lawyer and the full weight of the law behind her. You already knew how this story was going to end. Did you not? You knew because you know who she is. You know because you've been paying attention. You know because the women in your own life have taught you what it looks like when someone decides to protect what belongs to them. You have seen it. You have felt it. You have maybe even done it yourself. This is not a story about triumph over adversity. This is a story about a woman who understood that her peace was not negotiable, and she did what was necessary to protect it. This is a story about the particular rest that comes after you have done the hard thing, the right thing, the only thing that needed to be done. Share this story. Tell it to someone who needs to hear it. Tell it to someone who is standing in their own kitchen, figuring out how to protect what belongs to them. Tell it to someone who needs to understand that love and boundaries are not the same thing. That saying yes does not mean saying yes